Success isn't just about what you achieve. It's about living a life that reflects your values and priorities. Welcome to Engineer Your Success, the podcast that helps you lead with intention and live fulfilled.
When you talk about workforce development in the AEC industry, we often focus on firms, projects, and infrastructure. But long before someone shows up on the job site or in a design studio, there's a pathway that's helped them get to where they are. This conversation is the first in a leadership series highlighting people across the Richmond, Virginia area who are helping shape the future of engineering, architecture, and the broader built environment. My guest today is Crystal Miller. She leads the architecture program at Brightpoint Community College. Her work sits at the intersection of education, workforce development, mentorship, helping students explore pathways into architecture, engineering, and construction careers. In today's conversation, we're going to talk about how programs like hers connect students to industry and the role that community colleges play in developing talent, and why mentorship and guidance are such an important part of preparing the next generation of professionals. Crystal, I want to welcome you to the show, and I want to get started with part of your story. What originally drew you into architecture, and how did your career path eventually lead you into the role that you're in today?
Yeah, well, first, thanks, James, for having me. I'm really excited to talk about this. I always wanted to be an architect since I first learned what it was. I was probably about 7 years old. I was sitting around the dinner table with my family, and it came up in conversation. I have older siblings that were in high school at the time that were thinking about what they wanted to do, and it always stuck with me from that moment. And I always tell my students this, that architecture is a calling. It's not a job, right? If my students that are going to be architects, when they come to me, I can't talk them into it, nor can I talk them out of it. It's like being an artist. It's who you are. And everybody else, I'm going to help them figure out where they need to go. And so that is the number one rule in how I direct people when they get to me. But I went to college for architecture. I'm licensed in Virginia and Arizona. And I have about 15 years experience in the field. And I was kind of, after going through the recession and trying to start over and starting again, I got a little burnt out. I was an adjunct professor during the recession, and I honestly fell into teaching by accident. I never thought I would do it. I never thought I would like it. But I was asked to fill in for a friend that was on maternity leave, and kind of the rest was history. So I had the teaching experience in the background, and when this opportunity presented itself back in 2020, I jumped at it. And I haven't looked back. It's been great.
So you never envisioned yourself teaching. So what was the thing that solidified that for you?
That solidified me wanting to teach.
Yes.
I think it was the real-time gratification of being in a position of mentorship, of seeing the gap in the industry, of seeing a way forward, especially at the community college level, the opportunities it provides for non-traditional students, right, that can't or don't want to or aren't ready to or in a position to go the traditional four-year route, and being able to meaningfully impact people's lives right now, I think was really what solidified it for me. Also, I get to just talk about architecture and design all day, so that doesn't
which is something, as you already stated, that you love. So for listeners who are not familiar with Brightpoint Community College and the architecture program, could you talk a little bit more about the college and the program?
Absolutely. It's a great program. So Architecture, engineering, and construction are the spaces that I teach in, which is commonly known as the AEC industry. And my programs include the Architectural Engineering Technology degree, CAD and modeling, building construction and supervision, and GIS and surveying. So all that kind of falls under the umbrella of the architecture department. And we prepare students for entry-level jobs in all of those careers, as well as we do offer some pathways to transfer to four-year institutions for architecture, civil engineering, um, and surveying as well.
Okay. A-
Yeah.
And so, what would you say sets Brightpoint in your program apart?
What sets our program apart is it gives students the opportunity to look at all of the different career options and career fields in the AEC industry and make a much more informed decision on where they see themselves, right?
Okay.
The built environment, just the first thing I teach them when they come to class, what the built environment is, shapes every part of our lives, right? But most people don't have any idea how many people it takes to create it. Every building, every bridge, school, hospital, everything that you see around you started as an idea someone had to draw and calculate and build. And my job is to prepare the people who make those ideas real. Most of the time people come to me, they've heard of architecture, they think it sounds cool, they have fun building games on the, building designs on the, whatever those, the Sims or whatever the games are called, but they don't actually know what's involved with architecture and how many pieces and parts go into it. So when they get to me, that's one of the first things I explain to them. And that's one of the first things we teach in the beginning of the program is here are all of your options. Here are all of your pathways. And as they move through the program, they get to delve into those different careers. And then they get to, without going into a lot of debt in a four-year school, right? Because so many people go to four-year colleges and have no idea what they want to do.
Hmm.
And they're just taking gen eds and they're trying to figure it out. Um, this is a way, I advise each one of my students individually, and this is a way that you can come in and get a get a handle on what it is that you want to do or what you don't want to do.
Okay. No, that's great. And so, um, how is the program at Brightpoint connected to the AEC community and the companies that are in the field?
So the college-wide, we work with advisory boards. So each department will have its own advisory board made up of industry professionals, and that helps us stay aligned with the current workforce needs, with what they need to learn right now to be employable when they graduate. I do have a good amount of students that want to have no interest in going to four-year college, and just want to be able to get into the workforce as quick as possible. So our industry partners really play a huge part in, they send us job postings first, right?
Yeah.
They offer field trips for our students. They will come in and guest lecture. We have career fairs where I force my students to go. I force my students to go practice meeting industry professionals. And really, I really work hard at giving them opportunities to interface with industries so they know what they're getting into and they can see what the real work looks like, not just the classroom work.
As the emerging workforce issues or trends in the industry.
So the biggest issue right now in AEC and in the trades in general, and probably some other areas, is that we've got a workforce that's aging out, right? Our senior level people are aging out, and there's this gap um, in between at the entry level and the mid level positions that's getting wider and wider. So as people continue to retire, there's not as many people to come in and fill those positions. And then in some firms, you find they're very top heavy, right? There's a lot of
Mhm.
people that are working with a lot of experience, um, but there's no one doing the work, so to speak, right? We need those people that are actually, right, not in meetings and not overseeing everything,
Yeah.
the people that are actually coming in and doing the hands-on day-to-day stuff. And so that's what I am that is a gap the community college is really adept at filling.
Okay. And are you guys doing anything to address the introduction of AI into architecture, or is that something that's not
Slowly.
really
Slowly but surely. It makes me nervous a little bit because I don't know it all that well.
Yeah.
Uh, I certainly don't know it well enough to feel like I should be teaching it.
Mhm.
Uh, I have I am looking for partners in industry, and I have done some guest lectures and had people come in to we're at least introducing the topics,
Okay.
and showing what, we've got a building in Richmond that was printed, 3D printed,
Yes.
right? And I'm kind of sad we didn't take a tour to go see that, but I've showed them the videos. We've talked about those things, how augmented reality and virtual reality are being used largely in wayfinding
Mhm.
with architecture, but we are seeing it. Um, they have the four-year colleges have definitely integrated the technology,
Yeah.
and are using it and are teaching it to the students. Uh, so at the very least, I don't want my students leaving the program and not having heard of it, right? So I'm doing my best to introduce them to it. We are not teaching them fully how to use it at this point. Um, Because I need
Okay.
to hire somebody to do that.
Understood. So if you're in the Richmond area and you know architecture and AI, Crystal and Brightpoint may have a role for you to play to help them with that integration.
Yeah.
Um, you mentioned earlier just how much you enjoy helping students discover their why.
Yeah.
And so I want to circle back to that. And what does that look like helping them to find their why in practice?
Yeah. Um, Gosh, that's really exciting. Maybe I will, um well, let me answer that question first, and then I'll tell a little anecdote maybe. It is there's so many students, especially my ones coming out of straight out of high school. They don't know where they wanna go. They don't know how to figure out where they wanna go. They just don't know what they don't know.
Hmm.
Mm, and so what it looks like is individual advising. What it looks like is they come to my office and we sit down and I ask them what their interests are, what their goals are, who's their support team, right? Who's in their corner, who's helping them figure this out. And I learn a little bit about them and what they're interested in, and sometimes we can kind of shake it out right then, and sometimes it requires them to sit in the program a little bit and we have follow-up conversations. But by the time they leave, they have a plan. I have given them their next steps, right? We've gone through it together, we've written them down, and they know I need to do A, B, C, X, Y, Z to get here, to get one step closer to where I'm trying to go. So that's what it looks like. I had an opportunity one semester to do a historical project. I'm also always modifying my my curriculum, because why would you do the same thing twice? That's so boring. Uh, I got an email from two sisters that wanted help getting their family home on the historical registry. And one of my background expertise areas is historical renovation and adaptive reuse. So I've worked with our DHR and our historic department and historic architects often. So I knew the process really well, and I was like, sure. And I made it a class project. And we, for our emerging technologies, I'm teaching them about AR and 3D printing, and we're going to do a historical. We're going to see if we can get this house put on the historical registry.
Mhm.
So we had the appropriate guests come in. I walked them through the process. They did it. I gave them the paperwork, this big stack of paperwork, and I was like, you got to fill all this out. You got to do all this research. We got to turn all these things in. They worked together. They put the package together, and we submitted we got it approved. Part of that process, though, was to take a Saturday morning field trip an hour out of town to the house to field measure the house so that
Yes.
we could make accurate drawings of the house, because we had to have drawings to submit with our package. And the whole class showed up. Like, any chance they get to be in the real world environment and
Yeah.
see what the job is really like, they'd rather do that than come to class. So we all go out. We measure this building. I take a couple other teachers with me for support. So I had 10 kids out there. We're doing the thing. And we get back, we put this presentation together, and one of the students comes up to me and says, so is architectural history its own major? Could I be an architectural historian? And I was like, yes, it is. It's its own degree path. It's right. And he's like, I was talking to my dad about it, and I've always loved history, and I didn't know this was an option. Um, and the look on his face when he and how excited he was about um, the realization that he could take these two passions that he'd always had and put them together as one career. Um, that was fantastic. So but it worked like that. So he just happened to be in that cohort, and now he's on that path. So it's always, and every semester I feel like I have a story like that, right?
Yeah.
It's always something new and something different, and it's a different spark. And but there's so many opportunities, uh, and I just hoping I can help guide them to the right one.
Yeah. No, I think that's actually great. So beyond the technical ability, what are some of the qualities you think will help students succeed in architecture and in the AEC industry as a whole?
I love that question. Uh, Probably the thing I say most often to my students is, you never get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
These kids today coming to me, and even some of my adult learners, the soft skills are missing. We're not teaching soft skills, uh, and they don't know. They don't understand time management. They don't understand how important it is to show up to work
Mm.
and show up on time.
Yeah.
Show up on time. Um, and right, so there's different professional things that I help prepare them for, and I'm always side soft skill teaching in every
Okay.
lesson, every week, all the time. And I also, at the end of the program, we put together resume packages, right? How to write a proper cover letter, how to do interview skills, what are the most common interview questions, making sure that you have not only a professional design resume that you can hand in person, but you have the simple one that you can upload. Most of the time we're applying for jobs online now, and it's just sending it in.
Hmm.
But I also stress, so that's one thing that I work with them on, that I think is really important, and they really appreciate, because they don't know how to do those things.
Hmm.
Um, and it's very scary, right? And the other thing that I always take them to a networking event. We do a field trip to a networking event, and I make them go to career fairs, and I make them stand there and speak to adults and speak to professionals. When we go on field trips, I make them ask questions. Right? They get a grade on if they ask questions, because speaking in public, being able to, you can't be a designer if you can't defend your ideas, right? If you can't explain your ideas. So we
Yeah.
do a lot of presentations we do a lot of project work, and we do a lot of presentations
Hmm.
on projects. Um, so public speaking, soft skills.
And I imagine that the same thing you just talked about, you can't be a designer if you cannot defend your ideals. I would think it would be difficult to be a designer if you don't have the ability to effectively listen to be able to hear your client needs or the needs of the project.
100%. That is another skill that we work on quite a bit, and that goes with the presentations, um, or with the beginning of the design process, right? So,
Mhm.
beginning the design process, you have to create a program. In order to create a program, you have to understand the client's needs, right?
Yes.
To understand the client's needs, you have to ask questions and you have
Yep.
to listen without your predetermined answer, right? Or your predetermined definition of what you think the answer is going to be. And then you have to ask more questions. Um, that's a big part of design thinking, right?
Mhm.
It's a service industry. How can we help, right? What do you need? That's the client to the question, what do you need? That's also the question I ask when I'm advising, right? It's trying to listen to what they need.
This series is about the impact and what's going on here in the Richmond, Virginia area. What are the strengths that you believe this region has?
So, okay, so there's a couple ways I want to address
It,
that. So each region has its own specific, unique AEC needs, right? And Richmond is no different. Right when you right geographically, for one thing, we're fortunate in Richmond. I think what makes us unique is we're fortunate to have a really good mix of private sector work, military work, government work, medical work. We're blowing up with data centers. People from bigger cities are always looking to move here or open another office here. Richmond's really up and coming. We have more colleges per capita than any place I know of. So it's got a very unique history uh, as well, right? And there's a lot around that. Um, but we've got some urban density. We've got uh, kind of middle suburban areas. We've got rural areas. We've got we're always addressing the river.
yep.
So we've got mountains not so far away. So we've got all of these. We're kind of this perfect immersion of all the different geographies, and all the different building needs. Right,
Hmm.
we have a lot of needs, and we've got a good amount of money to distribute to those needs.
Yeah.
Uh, right? Uh, so I think that makes that's the reason even during the recession, we didn't slow down so much, right? We slowed down, but we weren't destroyed by it here.
Yeah.
So it's a very resilient work environment, and it's been able to stay active and busy more consistently than a lot of other places. So it makes it a good place to work. I every student that wants a job leaving my program has one when they graduate, if not before. So we can create good pipelines, and people here locally, specifically in Richmond, we work on relationships. And maybe that's not different. Maybe that's the same everywhere, but it seems more important here than other places that I've been. Uh, which is another reason I push my students to network, because it's really what you know will keep you the job, but getting the job is who you know.
Yeah.
So I make it a point to know everybody. Know everybody for my students.
No.
So I think those are some of the things that really make our area interesting and complex.
What excites you most about the future of the program that you're leading and the students that are coming through it?
What excites me most about this pathway is the opportunity that the community college is positioning itself in to not just be a side option over here, or not just be a last resort or a fallback plan, but as an opportunity to connect industry with four-year institutions, and be part of a larger, more cohesive solution, right? Because I
Yeah.
think that's what it's going to take. Um, we can't send students to school and then have a job fair and say good luck and hope they get a job.
Yeah.
It's really what we need right now is a partnership between education and industry to create this, to fill that gap, right? That we've been aging out, to create that mentorship so that we're not losing that knowledge. Uh, and so, what I'm pushing for and what I'm seeing, both talking to uh, my four-year school partners and to industry, is this: okay, we've identified the need. We know what needs to happen. We know that we need to make this connection. How do we effectively do it?
Yeah.
And not starting at the college level, but starting at the middle school and high school level. I mean, this is something I'm very personally passionate about. And probably the real reason I'm in education is because design should be taught earlier. It should
Okay.
be, if the developers knew what good design was, my job wouldn't be so hard. Right? When but we're not taught it. We don't see it every day, and we don't know what's involved with it. So the other piece that I didn't talk about is I also am in the middle schools and the high schools. I volunteer, I run camps, uh, and I'm introducing students younger and younger to the ideas of design, but also to the AEC career pathways, right? So it's really connecting this whole, um, the education is in connecting all the pieces.
Okay. So, Crystal, if someone is listening to this and they're interested in what you're talking about and they want to find out more about your program, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, you would go to the community college website. I will provide a link for your listeners on or and I'll provide the exact link to the programs on the Brightpoint College website.
But
Perfect.
before we wrap up, I always like to take a moment to turn the mic around where you become the interviewer and I become the interviewee. So, what is one question that you have for me?
What I would like to know is, what is, you've been doing these podcasts, it looked like, for quite some time. What has one of your most memorable moments, I guess?
I would say that there are two that come to mind, and these were early on, and it's the episodes where during the course of the discussion and with the questions that I'm asking, that the guest realizes something that they hadn't been thinking about before. Anytime I can have that interaction and cause those aha moments, those are the kinds of things that I like the best or the most. Now, in general, what I found is I really like allowing people space to tell their story. And because I think that everyone's story has some beauty in it, everyone's story has something. There's someone that is designed specifically to be able to hear what, about Crystal and about your story, and it's going to touch their life.
That's fantastic.
Well, Crystal, again, thank you for sharing your perspective on the work you're doing to help develop the next generation of professionals in our region. And for listeners, this conversation is part of a series highlighting leaders across the Richmond region who are shaping the future of engineering, architecture, and the built environment. And I want to thank you for being here as part of the show. Hi, this is James, the coach in your corner. This episode talked a lot about preparing the next generation of the workforce. I recently heard a term that in my circles I had not heard before: durable skills. I was sitting in a webinar for my son's 11th grade internship where they're going to be working on real business problems in teams. And the speaker referred to effective communication, collaboration, and professionalism not as soft skills, but as durable skills. Now, I've heard these skills defined as soft and essential, but this was my first exposure to durable. So soft skills implies optional, secondary, or temporary. Durable implies something that is totally different. It's built to last. And the importance of these skills as we prepare the next generation cannot be overstated, and the need for them is growing wider day by day. Here's what makes this urgent. AI is coming for a lot of what happens at the desk and on the screen. What it cannot replicate, though, is what happens between people in real time. Durable skills are built through real interaction that has real pressure in the midst of real relationships. That makes them more valuable now than they have ever been before. Here are 2 things to consider this week. First, look at the next generation that's in your orbit, your team, your mentees, maybe it's even your own kids. Are you intentionally developing durable skills in them, or are you leaving it to chance? Second, think about what you model. People learn more from what you do than from what you say. Are you demonstrating durable skills in the way that you communicate, collaborate, and show up with your presence? Are you ready to build something great that will last? Well, start investing in durable skills in yourself and in your team. I'm Dr. James Bryant, the coach in your corner, and I want you to be great this week.